Today, I want to talk a little bit about perfectionism and new endeavors and how the two can be rather incompatible or how they can really help to move each other in a more positive direction. So, I'm sure it will be not a surprise at all that as a pole dancer and entrepreneur, I've come across a lot of perfectionists in my day. And do have some perfectionistic tendencies myself. And the place that, also not surprisingly, I see it show up the most is when people are either starting a new endeavor or when they're coming back. So, for example, in pole dance, I felt it myself a lot when I had, come this really long way. I'd become a professional level pole dancer. I'd opened my own studio, and then I closed my studio, took a break, and then was coming back to it. And that feeling of not being as good was really, really challenging for me and made it hard for me to want to show up, to want to share where I was, and to want to share that part of my journey because it wasn't as good, in quotes, as it should have been. And I see it a lot too when people are, either starting a new business or launching a new offer, where they're really waiting and waiting for it to be perfect and just trying to find this standard that isn't really that realistic, especially for a beginner or for someone who's taken a step away and is coming back. And so when I think especially of people coming into a new business, I see so many times when they're like ready to go, they're really excited, they get started, they're excited, everything's ready to go. But when it comes to actually launching and doing the thing, that's where things start to get real. And that's when things like perfectionism start to really tie people up and stop people from moving forward. And my invitation to anyone who is dealing with this type of, let's call it perfectionistic stuckage, is to use it instead as an opportunity to grow past it. So I know it's really easy to say, like, oh, just drop the perfectionism. You can just put it out there before you're ready. You can just blah, 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 right? Words are really easy. And I'll come back to this in a moment, but the invitation I have for you is when you are stepping into something new or stepping back into something where you've maybe lost some skill, is essentially when you're doing that, and you can use whatever terminology you want for it, but I would say you're essentially asking the universe for some kind of expansion, right? You're asking for a new business that you want to grow. You're asking for a new skill set that you want to grow. You're asking to become stronger or more flexible or get these new capabilities. And so, because you're asking for that expansion, you also need to perhaps suggest that you're going to need to shift something inside of yourself. And I invite you to use this opportunity as the moment for you to offer up some of the rigidity, some of the perfectionism, and start to work on breaking the habit of perfectionism. And I call perfectionism a habit. I know that there's a lot of different psychological and potentially past traumatic things that may have contributed to perfectionism, and I'm not trying to minimize those by any means. Um, Certainly, if you're working with a professional on it, keep working with a professional on it. This is obviously for people who just have those smaller tendencies that are keeping them stuck. But your self-talk becomes a habit. What you allow yourself to do becomes a habit, and there becomes this habitual way that you start talking to yourself in your mind, saying of what's good enough and what's not. And while it can be really, really hard to just shrug one day and go, oh, it's good enough, I'm just going to post it anyway, I really invite you to do that. And I will say that I have done that on my own Instagram in just allowing myself to be imperfect. And I guess I kind of always was. It was, again, more so the stepping out of things and then coming back where I felt like I wasn't at the standard that I should be at. But again, I just started the habit of posting. And even more, I started the habit of posting without apologizing, right? So at first it was easy to be like, oh, I've been off for a couple of months. I had this fall and this injury. I slipped in the snow. I did this. And now I'm just getting back, right? And we can put all of those apologies around it. And honestly, it doesn't matter. I really, really invite you to come back and just be proud of where you are right now, because for whatever reason you chose to come back, for whatever reason you chose to start that business, for whatever reason you chose to become an artist, runner, whatever it is that you're choosing to become, where you're starting as a beginner, I invite you to use that as the moment to let go of your rigidity and to practice not only the new habit of whatever it is that you're practicing, the business, the running, the pole dancing, the whatever, but also practice the habit of positive self-talk. Practice the habit of doing things without it being perfect, and the talk that goes along with that of allowing that to be okay. Practice giving yourself permission to not be perfect. And again, as I said, I invite you, is when you're in this moment of asking for expansion, of stepping into a more expansive life or skill set or capabilities or whatever it is you're stepping into, while you've asked the universe for that, I invite you to offer to the universe you matching that and aligning with that by letting go of some of the rigidity in your own habits, thoughts, and behaviors. If you have anything to add to this conversation, I absolutely invite you to please drop a comment below, and I'd love to continue the conversation.